Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and today I'm going to be making various mango rhubarb ferments. So we just went to the store the other day and had a really good deal on mangoes and I couldn't pass it up, so I bought a bunch of them, and so I'm going to get busy on this and show you what I got going. So what I've done is I've taken 3 of the mangoes and I've chopped them up and peeled them, and I'm doing a whole bunch of different things here. And I want to start off by showing you what I did the other day. Was I started a batch of rhubarb vinegars from some fresh rhubarb out of my garden, and then the next day was when we got the mangoes and I peeled one of them, and I was just like, what can I do with the peels? Oh yeah, I can make vinegar. Well, since I just had the one mango peel, I didn't want to start a whole new batch just with one mango peel, so I threw it in with the rhubarb. And it's just turning out to be a beautiful color so far. It's only been a few days. And I took a little taste of it and it tastes really good. The flavor of the mango and the rhubarb together in there is just really wonderful. So it gave me an idea for some other ferments that I wanted to get going. And also give you a chance to see different ways you can use some different ferments. So what I have here is this is just water kefir, so the fruit may or may not be eaten in it, but in this I actually threw mango peel for the flavor, because that's mostly why the fruit is in there, and some rhubarb. And then if you want to see how I make my kefir nowadays, I'll go ahead and post to my last kefir making video, which was about the apple cinnamon, right up here, so you can see how I do that. And in this, part of the reason for the color is I added coconut sugar to this, so it's going to give it a more brown color. And then what I have here is some chopped mango and chopped rhubarb that I'm going to go ahead and ferment just like this. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add a little bit of sugar, maybe about 1/8 to 1/4 cup. That's probably about 1/8 cup. Since mango is pretty high in sugar on its own, I don't need a whole lot, but I am going to want a little bit in there. And then I decided the best fermentation starter to use would be my pineapple one, and it is time to refresh it anyway. And if you want to see how I make my fermentation starters, super easy process. You can go ahead and find that video right up here. So to this quart jar, what I want to do is add about 1/4 cup or more, you can use a little bit more, of the fermentation starter. Now really, you don't even need to add the fermentation starter. All you need is a little bit of sugar and water when you're talking about fermenting fruits. And in a few days it should start fermenting pretty good on its own. The starter is just going to give it a boost to get it started, get it going a lot faster, and that's also going to help prevent the possibility of any rot along the way. And then what you want to do is just pour some filtered water over that, whether it be rainwater or well water, spring water, just something other than city tap water that has chlorine and fluoride in it is really what you want to avoid. And then what I'm going to do is go ahead and put a lid on there. Well, I've got a chopstick. I'm going to stir that around a little bit, just kind of get that sugar worked down in there. But what I tend to like to do is put a tight fitting lid and just kind of shake it back and forth. And then just put that on tight. And then just kind of jostle it back and forth a little bit to mix the sugar and the fermentation starter well into your fruits. And then you may want to just kind of release it, open it up, and let any gases escape, tighten it down, not too tight, tighten it down just a little bit. And then you're going to let it sit on your counter for up to 3 days, and it should be very, very fizzy by the end of the 3rd day, maybe even by the end of the 2nd day, especially if you're in your weather's pretty warm. It should ferment pretty quickly. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I've taken all the rest of the peels and the pits. You can see in there, see the big old pit in there? There's 3 pits in here, and the rest of the peels. And I'm going to start a batch of vinegar with just this, so mango vinegar. Now mangoes, again, like I said, have a lot of sugar in them. However, since I'm using the peels and the pits, there's not as much actual fruit in this with the high sugar content. So I'm still going to want to add at least a good 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup of sugar to my fruit scraps. And then I'm going to top all that off with water. And before you fill it up all the way, you might want to take your chopstick, just kind of stir it around in there a little bit. That'll help loosen up some of the fruit off the pit and to get that sugar stirred in there. Okay, and the thing I like about this is, as in a lot of times with mangoes, it can be really difficult to get all of the fruit off the pit. And so you feel like you're wasting a lot when you throw it away. And mangoes, as we know, are not cheap. So by using the pits and the peels to make a vinegar, you're making the most out of that and not feeling like you have to waste so much. Okay, and then I just take a clean cloth and a rubber band and cover it up. Again, like I said in my last vinegar making video, which in that one I suggest you go watch it because I did answer a bunch of questions that I tend to get regularly. So I'll link to that right up here. But make sure you keep it just a cloth. Now some people have asked me about why not use a coffee filter. Well, for one, we don't use coffee filters around here because we have an old-fashioned percolator with a stainless steel basket, so we don't need coffee filters. And on top of that, I like the idea of using cloth because I can reuse it again and again. I just wash it up, use it again. But a coffee filter will work just fine. You just want to make sure that oxygen, air, can get in and out of the vinegar because you need oxygen to make vinegar. And then anyway, so I'll set that aside, and there's my vinegar start. So I've got a vinegar ferment going, which is going to be acidic ferment. I've got a water keeper ferment going, which is a symbiotic yeast and bacteria ferment. And I'm going to start, oh, and then I have a fruit ferment, which is going to be more of a yeast-based ferment. Okay, so when you use your fermentation starter, that is more yeast-based, just so you know. And now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rest of the fermentation starter I have in here before I refresh it. And I'm going to use that in making a fermented fruit smoothie with the rhubarb and the mango. So I'm just going to add the rest of it in there. And that should be just about right. Now you can, at any time, when you've got your fermentation starters, you can just either start a whole new one or refresh your fruit, or just take the fruit out, like on the goji berry. You can just take those out and add fresh ones in. Since I used up all the liquid, I could just go ahead and just start a whole new fermentation starter because I do have a blueberry one as well as the goji berry one. I usually try to have 3 little jars in there at a time, and I always like experimenting with different ones. You can use any fruit. I've used apples, I've used peaches, I've used strawberries, but I'm thinking, since this has been going for quite a while, I'll probably just either eat these pineapples or throw them out to the chickens. There's actually no sugar left in this, because this has been sitting in there for a while and I took a little taste of it. No sugar left, it's all gone. So it was a good thing I got on this and used it up. So I'll just go ahead and get a fresh fermentation starter going out of some kind of fruit. I don't know yet. I'll think about it. I'll see what I got in the fridge or maybe put away somewhere else. I don't suggest using frozen fruits. They can work, but sometimes I've noticed I've had a more issue when I've tried to do a fermentation starter or any types of ferments like vinegar with something that's frozen, unless you're going to add another fruit to it. So I think we'll throw these to the chickens. They'll probably like that, and it'll be good for them. Okay, so now that I got that all in there, I'm going to go ahead and add a combination of some coconut sugar, a couple tablespoons of that, and maybe a couple tablespoons of organic cane sugar. And then I'm just going to process it up. Okay, and then we'll pour it into my jar here. And I didn't make quite a quart, so that means there's quite a bit of fermentation starter in there. But you can always add more water or more fruit, whatever you want to do. I just didn't want to cut into this other mango right yet, because I might have other plans for that. So then once you've got your fruit smoothie all made up, you're going to do the same thing like you're doing with this, and you're going to let it sit for 3 days. So with the fermentation starter, I find it best to leave it for 3 days. Now, if you're using water kefir, you only need 1 to get a real nice, bubbly, wonderful ferment. And again, to this, I like to add that little pinch of baking soda, thanks to one of my subscribers that told me about that. And it does just make it that much better, a little more fizzy and wonderful. And as you can see, my grains are just looking better all the time since I stopped using the coconut sugar in the first ferment. Of course, it's not very bubbly right now because this is I just got this one going. It's just a fresh batch of sugar water with the grains, so it's not bubbling yet, but by the end of the day it should be. Again, I'm going to go ahead and use a Tattler lid on that. I didn't use a Tattler lid on this one. It really doesn't seem to affect the ferment. When I think about it though, I do try to use the Tattler lid. So I'm just going to let that sit for a few days, and then, you know, if you decide that you want it not quite so thick, just add a little more water to it, and maybe a little bit more sugar if you're going to fill it up. It just depends. You want to make sure, I know sugar is such a scary thing, and I get that, but you got to realize you're fermenting, so the bacterias and the yeasts are eating that sugar, so you're not going to be getting near as much sugar, if any, and what you're getting is going to be changed. It's no longer the scary sugar we worry about. So anyway, and plus I got that coconut sugar in there. It's not as sweet as your organic cane sugar, and but it's also adding a lot of minerals to it, so it's going to be really good. All right, so there are all the various ferments I have going with the rhubarb and the mango. So I've got rhubarb mango vinegar, I've got just plain mango vinegar, I have rhubarb mango water kefir, so again this is a soda replacement for those who are wondering, and rhubarb mango fruit smoothie. So these two, this one will be ready tomorrow, this one will be ready in 3 days, and then this one will also be ready in 3 days, the fermented mangoes and rhubarb. So I hope that gets you interested in starting some ferments, especially if you're new to it, or if you've been fermenting for a long time, maybe using the brine method like you typically would do with kimchi, sauerkraut, and other vegetables, which is great. I used to do that a lot, but just for something fun and different, and maybe just a faster, easier process that requires far less salt, consider getting into the fermentation starter. Now, but here's something you need to know, that the brine method relies more on a bacterial-based ferment, whereas this is more of a yeast ferment. Both are very beneficial to your gut health though, and I say try them both, or try them all, because you also have your kefir or your kombucha, which is bacteria and yeast in a symbiotic culture, and find which ones work best for you. Just kind of play with them, and you may find that the yeast ferment works better for you, or you may find the brine methods or bacterial based ferments work better for you, or the symbiotic culture ones work better for you. I like to use them all in various different ways. Some of it just depends on what I'm doing, and then of course the vinegar is your acidic ferment, which relies on yeast to get started. So those are just kind of a brief touch on different types of ferments, and but they're all very beneficial to your health. So, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something new. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.